Why did you do this?
You and your fiancé treated me like trash.
They told me to stay invisible, to blend into the marble floors I polished. But when I
look at her.
wrapped
Does
my
she even know what
fingers around
champagne
the
is?
hair clippers and
Good
felt
one.
them buzz
She's
to
so
life,
quiet. Must be her
the
best
weight
quality.
in my hand didn't feel like a cleaning tool. It felt like a loaded weapon waiting to fire. I pulled in a breath, steadying my trembling hands against the vibration, trying to hide the rage that had been building for 3 years. The air in the penthouse suite was heavy, thick with the scent of expensive whiskey and bergamot cologne, undercut by something darker, my own recklessness and the career I was about to destroy. Shin Tae-jin lay unconscious on the leather sofa, his perfectly styled hair catching the city lights from floor to ceiling windows. "Mr. Shin," I whispered to his sleeping form, my voice barely audible over the clipper's hum. "You wanted to know what I was capable of? Let me show you." The first pass of the blade took away everything he'd spent 40 minutes perfecting that morning, and I didn't stop until there was nothing left but skin and consequences. Welcome back, my fierce hearts and midnight dreamers. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed, hit that like button, and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing our dark romance family span continents, cultures, and countless brave souls who refuse to stay invisible. Every click, every comment, every bit of support you leave helps us keep exploring these explosive power shifts and dangerous redemptions together. So grab your boldness, settle in for some chaos, and get ready. Let's begin. Monica had perfected invisibility over 3 years at the Grand Millennium Hotel, Seoul. She'd learned to move through marble lobbies like smoke, to clean crystal chandeliers without casting a shadow, to exist in the same room as Korea's elite without disturbing the carefully curated atmosphere of wealth. She'd mastered the art of smiling through comments about her hair being unprofessional when worn natural, of nodding politely when guests switched to Korean the moment she approached, assuming she wouldn't understand their complaints about foreign workers lowering standards. The hospitality degree from Howard University had promised international opportunities, career advancement, respect. 3 years later, she was scrubbing toilets for people who looked through her like she was part of the fixtures. Shin Tae-jin's penthouse suite was her assignment for the week leading up to his wedding. The bride-to-be, Yoon Sya-hyun, had specific demands: imported linens changed twice daily, champagne chilled to exactly 7 degrees Celsius, and absolute discretion regarding the constant stream of business associates who visited at odd hours, looking more like enforcers than wedding guests. Monica knew what Tae-jin was. Everyone knew. The tattoos peeking from beneath designer suits, the security detail that followed him everywhere, the way even hotel management grew nervous when he complained about something as trivial as water pressure. He was dangerous, powerful, and completely untouchable, which made his cruelty that evening all the more casual. Monica was clearing champagne flutes from the suite's main room when So-yeon stormed out of the bedroom, fury radiating from every pore. "This is what you think is acceptable? Having staff like her handle our private suite during the most important week of our lives?" Tae-jin barely looked up from his phone. "The hotel assigns the staff. I don't micromanage cleaning schedules." She's gestured at Monica with a manicured hand, her lip curling. "Look at her. This is the image we want representing our wedding week? At least the hotel has standards for the rooms, even if they can't maintain them for the staff." Monica's hands tightened on the champagne flits. She'd heard worse. She could handle this. Then Tae-jin laughed, actually laughed, like So-yeon had made a clever joke instead of a cruel observation. "You're right, though I suppose she's lucky to be employed at all, considering—" Tae-jin finally looked at Monica directly, his eyes traveling over her face with casual dismissal. "Not everyone has your advantages, darling." So-yeon's delighted giggle followed Monica out of the suite. So did the sound of their kiss, Tae-jin's insult apparently the foreplay they'd needed to reconcile whatever argument had started the evening. Monica made it to the supply closet before her hands started shaking, made it through her shift on autopilot, smiling at guests, refilling amenities, being invisible. But at 2 a.m., lying in her cramped room in the staff quarters, replaying that moment on an endless loop, something crystallized into certainty. She grabbed the hair clippers from the hotel barbershop storage, retrieved her master key, rode the elevator to the penthouse with her heart hammering, and her anger finally finding a target. Tae-jin was passed out on the leather sofa, his expensive whiskey bottle tipped on its side, his perfectly styled hair perfect even in unconsciousness. She touched it constantly, she'd noticed, adjusted it in every reflective surface, spent 40 minutes getting it right each morning. Monica plugged in the clippers. They buzzed to life, surprisingly loud in the silent penthouse. You wanted to know what I was capable of? Let me show you. The first pass of the blade took away everything he'd spent 40 minutes perfecting that morning, and I didn't stop until there was nothing left but skin and consequences. The scream that echoed through the penthouse at 7 a.m. wasn't Tae-jin's. It was So-yeon's, shrill enough to shatter crystal. Monica heard it 3 floors down in the laundry room where she'd been mechanically folding towels and waiting for security to arrive. They came for her 20 minutes later, 2 of Tae-jin's personal guards, stone-faced and efficient, escorting her back to the penthouse like she was a prisoner being led to execution. Monica's hands were steady. Her heart wasn't. Tae-jin sat on the edge of his bed, staring into a handheld mirror with an expression of such profound shock, it would have been funny if Monica weren't probably about to die. His head was perfectly, completely bald, smooth skin catching the morning light, emphasizing the sharp angles of his face and the intricate tattoos climbing his neck. Without the carefully styled hair, he looked rawer, more dangerous, less like a polished businessman and more like exactly what he was. Se-hyun stood by the window, phone pressed to her ear, her voice rising with each word. I don't care what it costs. Find me a wig specialist, a stylist, something. The wedding is in 24 hours. Tae-jin set down the mirror. His eyes found Monica's, and she saw something flicker there. Not the rage she expected, but something far more unsettling. Curiosity. Leave us, he said quietly. The guards hesitated. Se-yeon stopped mid-sentence. What? Everyone out. Now. They obeyed. Of course they did. Even bald and humiliated, Shin Tae-jin's authority was absolute. The door clicked shut, leaving Monica alone with the man whose hair she'd shaved and whose wedding she'd just destroyed. He stood slowly, crossing to her with predatory grace. Monica forced herself not to step back, not to show fear, even as every survival instinct screamed at her to run. You used your master key, he said, not a question. Yes. Came into my suite while I was unconscious? Yes. And shaved my head. He stopped inches from her, close enough that she could smell bergamot cologne and the faint whiskey from last night, the night before my wedding. Monica lifted her chin, meeting his gaze directly. Yes. Why? The question caught her off guard. She'd expected threats, violence, immediate termination, and deportation, not this quiet, almost conversational interrogation. You insulted me, she said simply. You laughed at your fiancé's cruelty and added your own, so I took something you value. My hair. Your armor. Monica gestured at the mirror, at his reflection, the thing you hide behind, the image you've spent years perfecting. I wanted you to feel what it's like to be stripped of it in front of people who matter. Silence stretched between them. Then Tae-jin smiled, not the polished public smile from last night, but something genuine and slightly unhinged. Was it worth it? He asked. Your job, your visa, possibly your life? Was shaving my head worth all of that? Monica didn't hesitate. Absolutely. The smile widened. He turned, ran a hand over his bare skull and laughed, a real laugh that sounded like breaking glass. The wedding's canceled, my fiancé is having a breakdown in the lobby, the entire organization knows I've been humiliated by my cleaning lady, and you're standing here like you have nothing to lose. I don't. Then that makes you either the bravest person I've ever met or the most suicidal. He circled her slowly, assessing. I haven't decided which yet. Downstairs, chaos erupted, raised voices, slamming doors, Se-yeon's family arriving to witness the disaster. The wedding of the year was imploding in real time. And in the penthouse, Tae-jin studied Monica like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. Don't leave Seoul, he finally said. We're not finished here. Monica lasted 3 days before reality caught up with her bravado. The hotel fired her immediately, of course. No severance, no reference, just security escorting her out through the service entrance like she was contraband. Her work visa was flagged for review. Her landlord received anonymous complaints about noise violations she'd never committed. Every luxury hotel in Seoul suddenly had no openings, even for positions she was overqualified for. She wasn't just blacklisted, she was systematically erased. By day 3, Monica was packing her single suitcase, her plane ticket to Atlanta purchased on a credit card she couldn't afford, when someone knocked on her door. Not the polite knock of a neighbor, the kind of knock that said the person on the other side didn't need permission to enter. She opened it to find Tae-jin leaning against the doorframe, looking impossibly composed in a black suit, despite the baseball cap covering his still bald head. 2 guards flanked him in the narrow hallway. "Going somewhere?" he asked mildly. "Home, unless you're here to have me arrested, in which case I'd appreciate you making it quick." "Arrested?" He stepped inside without invitation, his guards remaining in the hall. "For what? Unauthorized barbering?" His smile was sharp. "No, Miss Ellison, I'm here with a proposition. I'm not interested in whatever—" 1 month. He pulled an envelope from his jacket, set it on her tiny kitchen counter. "Be my public companion. Help me navigate the social disaster you created. Attend events, look appropriately remorseful in front of the right people, play the role of the woman who humbled me into reconsidering my life choices." Monica stared at him. "You want me to be your what? Your redemption arc?" "I want you to be visible." He gestured at her cramped studio, at her suitcase on the bed. "You spent 3 years being invisible. Now everyone in Seoul knows your name. The maid who shaved Shin Tae-jin's head the night before his wedding. You're infamous. I'm proposing we use it." "Use it how?" "The wedding's canceled. The alliance with Se-hyun's family is fractured. My organization thinks I've lost control." He moved closer, his voice dropping. "But if I spin this correctly, if I make it look like you showed me something I needed to see, like this was an awakening rather than a humiliation, I can turn the narrative. And I'm just supposed to play along, pretend I did this for noble reasons instead of petty revenge? You did it because I was cruel, and you refused to accept that cruelty. That's not petty, that's brave." His eyes locked on hers. "1 month, Miss Ellison. Survive my world without flinching, and I'll guarantee you a position at any luxury hotel in Asia, with a reference so glowing you'll be untouchable. Walk away now, and I can't protect you from the consequences."
Protect me? You're the reason I need protection. I'm also the only reason you're not already on a plane in handcuffs. He tapped the envelope. Contract terms, compensation, legal protections. Read it, sign it. Or don't and spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Monica picked up the envelope with shaking hands. The compensation alone was 6 months of hotel wages. The terms were specific, clinical, surprisingly fair. "Why me?" she asked. "Why not just move on, find another alliance, pretend this never happened?" Tae-jin's hand went to his covered head unconsciously. "Because you're the first person in 10 years who's treated me like I'm fallible, like I'm human." His smile turned dangerous. "And I can't decide if that makes me want to destroy you or keep you close enough to figure out how you did it." Monica looked at her suitcase, at the ticket to a life where she'd always wonder what might have happened if she'd been brave enough to stay. 1 month, she said. "Then I'm gone." "We'll see." Tae-jin extended his hand. "Welcome to the dangerous side, Miss Ellison." She shook it, sealing a deal that felt far more binding than any contract. The charity gala was held at the Sheila Hotel. 200 of Seoul's elite gathered in a ballroom that cost more to rent than Monica had earned in a year of scrubbing their toilets. She wore a dress Tae-jin's stylist had selected, midnight blue silk that made her skin glow and cost more than her previous month's rent. The looks she received walking in on Tae-jin's arm ranged from curiosity to barely concealed disgust. Tae-jin had ditched the baseball cap. His bald head was now part of the narrative, a symbol of transformation, his PR team claimed. The look was striking, dangerous, somehow even more intimidating than the carefully styled hair had been. He navigated the room with Monica at his side, introducing her with a possessive hand at the small of her back that felt more real than performative. "They're staring," Monica murmured during a lull in conversation. "Let them." His grip tightened slightly. "You're exactly where you're supposed to be." The attack came during cocktail hour. Monica was at the bar, ordering water, when she felt the cold splash against her chest before she registered what was happening. Champagne soaked through her dress, ice cubes clattering to the marble floor. Gumdungy, the man spat, the racial slur hitting harder than the drink. He was mid-40s, expensive suit, wedding ring catching the light. Someone important enough to think himself untouchable. You think you belong here? You think spreading your legs for Shin Tae-jin makes you one of us? The ballroom went silent, 200 witnesses holding their breath. Monica opened her mouth to respond. She'd handled worse, survived worse, but Tae-jin was already moving. He crossed the distance between them like a predator, his hand catching the man's wrist mid-gesture. "Say it again," Tae-jin said quietly, conversationally, like he was asking for directions. "I said..." The crack of breaking bone echoed through the ballroom. The man screamed, dropping to his knees, his wrist bent at an unnatural angle. Tae-jin held it there, applying just enough pressure to make his point without releasing. "Her name," Tae-jin continued in that same deadly calm voice, "is Monica Ellison. She's under my protection, and the next person who mistakes her for anything less than my equal will learn that I'm significantly less gentle when I'm truly offended." He released the man, who crumpled to the floor, cradling his shattered wrist. Security rushed forward but stopped at Tae-jin's raised hand. "This man assaulted my companion and used a racial slur in a public venue. I responded proportionally. Does anyone have objections they'd like to voice? Now would be the time." Silence. Absolute, terrified silence. Tae-jin turned to Monica, his expression softening fractionally. He shrugged off his jacket, draped it over her champagne-soaked dress. "Are you hurt?" Monica's hands were shaking, but not from fear, from something else entirely, something hot and dangerous that coiled in her chest as she looked at this man who'd just broken someone's wrist to defend her honor. "No," she managed. "I'm fine." "Good." He offered his arm. "Let's go. This party just became significantly less interesting." They left through the main entrance, past 200 witnesses who would spend the next week spreading the story. Shin Tae-jin had publicly, violently claimed the maid who'd humbled him. The woman who'd shaved his head was now untouchable. In the car, Monica finally found her voice. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." Tae-jin's jaw was tight, his hand still clenched in a fist. "This was supposed to be damage control, public appearances, not," she gestured helplessly, "not whatever that was." He looked at her then, really looked, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "This is a terrible idea. The best ones usually are," Tae-jin said, and closed the distance between them. The summons came at midnight, 3 black cars arriving at Tae-jin's penthouse carrying men whose combined age was older than the Republic of Korea itself. The Elder Council didn't request meetings, they commanded audiences. Monica was in the guest room, her official residence per the contract, when she heard the commotion, voices rising in heated Korean, Tae-jin's measured responses growing sharper. She cracked her door open just enough to hear, "You've made us a laughingstock." Elder Kim's voice carried the weight of decades of authority. "The Yoon alliance was strategic, essential, and you threw it away for what? A woman who humiliated you? A foreign maid with no family, no connections, no value?"
Careful. Tae-jin's tone could have frozen fire. "You're talking about someone under my protection. That's exactly the problem." Another voice, Elder Park, she thought. "You've elevated her from scandal to companion in 2 weeks. The organization is questioning your judgment. Worse, they're questioning your strength." Monica's stomach dropped. This wasn't just about the broken engagement anymore. This was about power, succession, control. "The Yoon family is demanding compensation for the embarrassment," Elder Choi added. "Their alliance with Kim Jae-sung's faction is already being negotiated. You've handed our rival the exact opening he's been waiting for. Then let him try to exploit it." Tae-jin's footsteps paced the room. "I won't be bullied into a marriage for strategic convenience. Not anymore." "This isn't about the marriage." Kim Jae-sung's fist slammed a table. "This is about you choosing personal desire over organizational stability. Your grandfather built this empire on discipline and sacrifice. Your father maintained it through strategic alliances, and you're destroying it over a woman who means nothing." The silence that followed was more terrifying than the shouting. "She means something to me," Tae-jin said, quietly, dangerously. "And that's not negotiable." Then perhaps, Elder Park said, his voice oily with implication, it's time to reconsider your position as head of this organization. There are others in the family who understand the importance of putting business before sentiment. Monica's blood ran cold. They were threatening a coup. Are you challenging me? Each word from Taejin was a blade, because I want to be very clear about what you're suggesting before I respond. We're suggesting, Kim Jae-sung said carefully, that you end this arrangement, restore the Yoon alliance, and prove you're capable of leading, or we'll be forced to convene a formal review of your leadership. The bylaws are clear. If 3 elders question the head's fitness, a vote must be called. Then call it. Taejin's voice was steel. But understand this, I will not apologize for choosing a woman who had the courage to treat me like a human being over people who view me as a chess piece. If that makes me unfit to lead, then perhaps this organization needs different leadership anyway. The elders left 20 minutes later, their faces carved from stone, their threat hanging in the air like smoke. Monica heard Taejin dismiss his guards, heard the clink of a whiskey bottle against glass, heard the heavy silence of a man who just declared war on his own council. She found him on the balcony, staring at Seoul's lights, his bare head catching the city's glow. "I heard," she said quietly. "Of course you did." He didn't turn. "You should know this gets worse before it gets better. Kim Jae-sung will move against me now. The elders will make their displeasure known. People who want my position will see this as weakness. Because of me. Because I chose you over politics." Finally, he looked at her, really looked at her. "I need you to understand something, Monica. This stopped being about damage control the moment I broke that man's wrist for insulting you. This is real, dangerously, stupidly real, and I'm not backing down." Monica stepped closer, her heart hammering. "They'll destroy you." "Let them try." His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. "I've spent my entire life being what they needed me to be, building what they wanted built. For once, I'm choosing something for myself. I'm not worth a civil war. That's not your decision to make." His smile was sharp, certain. "You shaved my head to humble me. Congratulations, it worked. Now I'm humble enough to admit I'd rather have you than an empire built on pretending I'm something I'm not." 3 floors below, a car exploded, a warning from Kim Jae-sung that subtlety was over. The war had begun. The nightmare started after the car explosion. Not Monica's, Taejin's. She'd hear him pacing at 3 a.m., the clink of ice in whiskey glasses, the sliding door to the balcony opening and closing. On the 5th night, she stopped pretending to sleep and found him on the sofa, staring at security footage on his tablet like the screens held answers. "Can't sleep either?" he asked without looking up. "Hard to sleep when World War III is happening in your living room." Monica sat beside him, leaving careful space between them. "How many threats today?" 7. 3 credible. He set down the tablet, scrubbed a hand over his bare scalp, a gesture she'd noticed he did when stressed. The elders leaked our arrangement to the media. By morning, every gossip site in Korea will be running stories about the maid who seduced the Mafia boss. Seduced? I shaved your head. They're creative with their narratives. His smile was exhausted. "My favorite theory is that you're a Chinese spy sent to destabilize my organization through sexual manipulation. That's ridiculous. Welcome to my world, where nothing is ever simple and everyone has an agenda." He looked at her then, really looked at her. "Except you. You didn't have an agenda. You just had rage and hair clippers and 3 years of justified anger. I wanted to hurt you. That was my agenda. Because I was cruel to you to impress a woman I didn't even love." Taejin leaned back, his profile sharp in the dim light. "Do you know what So-yeon said to me the day we got engaged? She said, 'At least you're beautiful enough to make this bearable.' Not smart, not kind, not even powerful, just beautiful. Like I was a sculpture she'd acquired for her collection." "Taejin, do you know what So-yeon said to me the day we got engaged? She said, 'At least you're beautiful enough to make this bearable. Not smart, not kind, not even powerful, just beautiful. Like I was a sculpture she'd acquired for her collection.' Taejin." He turned to her, and Monica saw something she'd never expected. Vulnerability. Real, aching vulnerability. "Then you walked into my suite with those clippers and took away the one thing everyone told me mattered. And instead of destroying me, it felt like..." He struggled for words. Like you saw through all of it. Like you knew the hair was just armor and you wanted to see what was underneath, even if you hated what you found. Monica's throat tightened. I didn't hate what I found. You should have. I was cruel to you, dismissed you, made you feel less than human because it was easier than acknowledging you existed. He shifted closer, closing the careful space between them. But you refused to be dismissed. You refused to be invisible. And for the first time in my life, someone treated me like I was fallible, like I was human, like I could be hurt. I did hurt you. You humbled me. His hand found hers in the darkness. There's a difference, and I've spent 3 weeks trying to figure out how to thank you for that. Thank me? I destroyed your wedding, fractured your organization, and started a war. You made me realize I was living in a cage built from other people's expectations. Taejin's thumb traced circles on her palm, the gesture intimate and grounding. The wedding would have been a beautiful prison, the alliance would have been strategic suicide, and I would have spent the rest of my life being a sculpture instead of a man. Monica's heart was hammering now, her breath shallow. What are you saying? I'm saying you terrify me, Monica Hellison, because you make me want to be more than what I was built to be. You make me want to be someone worthy of the woman who had the courage to stand in my penthouse with clippers and rage and absolutely no fear. The kiss happened in the space between one breath and the next, tentative at first, testing, then deepening as 3 weeks of tension finally found release. Taejin's hand cupped her face with unexpected gentleness, his thumb brushing her cheekbone as she melted into him. When they broke apart, both breathless, he pressed his forehead to hers. "This is real," he whispered. "Tell me you feel it too." "I feel it," Monica admitted, her hands fisting in his shirt. "God help me, I feel it." Outside, Seoul sparkled with indifferent beauty. Inside, 2 people who'd started as enemies discovered they'd become something far more dangerous, partners who'd chosen each other despite every reason not to. The charity gala was supposed to be safe. Vetted guests, Taejin's security detail stationed at every entrance, Monica wearing the panic button bracelet he'd insisted on after the car bombing. She'd rolled her eyes at his paranoia, kissed him to stop his worrying, and promised to stay visible. She made it 40 minutes before someone spiked her champagne. Monica woke up in a warehouse that smelled of rust and salt water, her wrists zip-tied to a metal chair, her head pounding. 3 men stood in the shadows, but the one who stepped into the light was expensively dressed, his smile cold as winter. Miss Ellison, finally awake. Kim Jae-sung looked exactly like his photographs, handsome, polished, and utterly devoid of warmth. "I apologize for the accommodations. This won't take long if you cooperate." "Where's Taejin?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Receiving proof of life as we speak." Kim pulled up a chair, sitting far too close. "Step down as head of his organization, publicly acknowledge his unfitness to lead, and I'll return you mostly unharmed." "He won't do it." "That's what I'm counting on." Kim's smile widened. "You see, Miss Ellison, you've done me an enormous favor. You've proven that Shin Tae-jin cares about something more than power, and in our world, caring is weakness. Weakness is exploitable." One of his men stepped forward with pliers. Monica's stomach dropped. "I don't know anything about his operations. I'm just—" "You're so much more than that." Kim crouched before her, almost gently. "You're his weakness, and I'm going to use you to destroy him." The warehouse doors exploded inward with enough force to shake the building. Gunfire erupted, controlled, precise, professional. Kim's men scattered, returning fire, but they were outmatched and outgunned. Then Taejin was there, emerging through smoke and chaos like an avenging angel, his weapon raised, his face carved from rage. He dropped 2 men with clinical efficiency before his eyes found Monica's. The rage transformed into something worse, anguish. "You have 30 seconds to release her, or I burn this entire district down with everyone in it." "You're willing to start a war over her?" Kim laughed, pressing a gun to Monica's temple. "This is exactly what I mean, Taejin. You've become soft, sentimental, weak." "No." Taejin's eye never wavered. "I've become focused. There's a difference." "Then prove you're capable of leading. Walk away. Choose the organization over the girl. Show me you're still the ruthless bastard your grandfather raised." The standoff stretched, seconds that felt like hours. could see Taejin's jaw working, could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. He was actually considering it, weighing her life against his empire. Then he lowered his weapon. Kim's smile was triumphant. Finally, you... Taejin's sniper took the shot. Kim dropped, a perfect hole through his shoulder, his gun clattering away. Taejin's team swarmed the warehouse, neutralizing the remaining threats with brutal efficiency.
Taejin reached Monica in seconds, cutting her restraints with shaking hands. "I've got you. You're safe. I've got..." His voice broke when he saw her mangled hand. "You came," Monica sobbed. "You actually came. Did you think I wouldn't?" He gathered her carefully, mindful of her injuries. "Monica, I would burn this entire city down before I let them keep you. The empire, the organization, all of it. None of it matters if you're not here." Outside, sirens wailed. Inside, Taejin held the woman who'd become more important than power, than legacy, than everything he'd been raised to value. Kim was right about one thing. Caring made you weak, but it also made you willing to fight harder than you ever had before. Monica woke up in a private hospital room that looked more like a luxury suite, her left hand wrapped in a cast that extended to her elbow. 3 fingers broken, the doctor said, hairline fracture in her wrist, bruised ribs, mild concussion. She'd heal, physically at least. Taejin sat in the chair beside her bed, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His clothes were rumpled, blood, hers and Kim's, still visible on his sleeve. When he saw her eyes open, his relief was so visceral it hurt to witness. "You're awake." His hand found her uninjured one, gripping it like a lifeline. The doctors said, "I need to leave." The words came out before Monica could stop them. "This arrangement, us, whatever this is, it needs to end." Taejin went very still. "What?" "I was tortured because you care about me. They broke my fingers to prove you're weak for having feelings." Monica forced herself to meet his gaze. "How many more times, Taejin? How many more kidnappings, explosions, threats before one of them actually succeeds in killing me to hurt you?" "That won't happen. I'm increasing security, restructuring. You can't bodyguard away reality." Her voice cracked. "Your world is violent and dangerous, and I'm a liability. The elders were right. Caring about me makes you vulnerable." "I don't." "Well, I do." Monica pulled her hand away, tears streaming. "I care that you're being challenged for leadership because of me. I care that your organization is fracturing. I care that Kim Jae-sung almost started a war because you wouldn't sacrifice me. This has to stop." "You're right." Taejin stood, and for a moment Monica thought he was agreeing, thought he was walking away. Instead, he pulled out his phone. "Attorney Kang, execute the plan we discussed. All of it. Now." "What are you doing?" Monica asked. "Choosing you." He pocketed the phone, his expression resolved. "Elder Kim, Elder Park, and Elder Choi have been arrested. Turns out they've been embezzling from the organization for years and feeding intelligence to Kim Jae-sung. Convenient that my security team found all the evidence this morning." Monica's breath caught. "Taejin, the remaining elders have unanimously voted to support my continued leadership. The ones who don't like it are welcome to challenge me directly." His smile was sharp. "None of them will." "You can't just..." "I can, and I did." As for the Yoon Alliance, he pulled up a news article on his phone, showed her the headline, "Shin Tae-jin officially ends engagement negotiations, cites fundamental incompatibility." "It's done. Publicly. Permanently. I'm not restoring it." "You're committing organizational suicide." "I'm committing to the woman I love." Taejin sat on the edge of her bed, careful not to jostle her injuries. "Monica, they tortured you, and you didn't break. You didn't give them anything. Do you know what that means? It means you're stronger than anyone I've ever met, and I'm not walking away from that. I'm not walking away from you." "This is insane." "Absolutely." He pressed his forehead to hers.
But so was shaving my head, so was accepting my proposition, so was falling in love with a mafia boss who's terrible at expressing emotions and excellent at making enemies. Despite everything, the pain, the fear, the rational voice screaming that this was impossible, Monica laughed. "You're actually serious." "I'm serious about you." His kiss was soft, reverent, tasting of coffee and sleepless nights. "Stay. Not for a month, not for an arrangement. Stay because what we have is worth fighting for." Monica looked at his bald head, now starting to show the first hints of dark stubble, at the man who'd chosen her over an empire, at the partnership they'd accidentally built from rage and hair clippers and impossible circumstances. "One condition," she said. "Anything. When your hair grows back, I get to style it. No more 40-minute preening sessions." His laugh was surprised, genuine, beautiful. "Deal." Outside, the war wasn't over. Inside, two people chose each other anyway. 3 weeks after the warehouse, Tae-jin walked into Monica's hospital room with his hair finally visible, short, dark stubble covering his scalp, the beginning of growth after months of forced baldness. He looked different, softer somehow, despite the sharp suit and the tattoos climbing his neck, more human. "It's growing back," Monica said from her bed, her casted hand resting on a pillow. Slowly, he sat beside her and she noticed he was holding something, a small velvet box that made her heart stutter. "I wanted to wait until I looked more like myself before I asked you this. Then I realized that's exactly the wrong thinking. Tae-jin, this isn't a marriage proposal. Not yet." He opened the box to reveal a key, sleek, modern, clearly expensive. "It's a key to the penthouse, not as my contracted companion, not as the woman I'm keeping for appearances, as my partner, my equal, the person I want to build something real with." Monica's throat tightened. "Your organization needs you." He set the box in her lap. Kim Jae-sung's arrest created a power vacuum. 3 rival factions are already positioning for territory. The restructured Elder Council wants me to handle it with traditional methods, violence, intimidation, the old ways. But I think there's a better approach. Which is? You, your hospitality expertise, your ability to read people and diffuse situations before they explode. His smile was genuine. You spent 3 years being invisible, learning how the elite operate, understanding power dynamics from the outside. That perspective is exactly what we need to modernize this organization. You want me to help run a criminal enterprise? I want you to help transform it into something that can exist in daylight. Tae-jin's hand found her uninjured one. The legitimate businesses are real. The hotels, the tech investments, the real estate. They can be our foundation. The underground operations don't disappear overnight, but they can be managed differently, with someone who sees possibilities I'm too close to recognize. Monica looked at the key, at the man who'd started as her enemy and somehow become her everything. This is crazy. It's the best kind of crazy. He leaned in, his kiss soft and certain. "Stay, not because you're afraid or obligated or trying to protect me. Stay because we're better together than we ever were apart." 6 months later, Monica stood in the penthouse, their penthouse, reviewing contracts for a new luxury hotel acquisition. Tae-jin's hair had grown back completely, styled now in a shorter, more practical cut that she'd suggested and he'd actually listened to. He emerged from his office looking exhausted but satisfied. "The Busan negotiation?" she asked. "Successful. Your strategy worked, offering partnership instead of demanding territory. They agreed to the alliance without a single threat." He moved behind her, arms circling her waist. "The elders are calling it revolutionary. I'm calling it Monica Ellison's particular genius. I'm calling it common sense." She leaned back against him. "Turns out treating people like humans instead of chess pieces gets better results. Who knew?" "You did, from the beginning." His lips found her temple. "You saw through the armor before anyone else." Monica turned in his arms, studying the man who'd transformed from mafia boss to genuine partner. His hair was back, perfectly imperfect. The tattoos still marked him as dangerous, but his eyes held something she'd never expected to find in Seoul's underworld. Peace. No regrets? She asked. About you shaving my head and upending my entire life? Tae-jin's smile was pure warmth. Best humiliation I ever experienced. Outside, Seoul sparkled with evening light. Inside, the former maid and the humbled mafia boss reviewed their empire, not built on fear or tradition, but on partnership, respect, and the kind of love that starts with rage and clippers and transforms into something unshakable. The wedding came 3 months later, small, intimate, blending cultures and defying expectations. Monica wore purple, a nod to the scrubs she'd worn that fateful night. Tae-jin's vows included thanks for having the courage to make me bald and human in the same night. When the photographer asked about their unconventional beginning, Monica smiled and said, "Sometimes the best relationships start with a bold haircut." Tae-jin's response was simpler. She saw me when I was invisible to myself. Everything after that was just details. The hair grew back. The scars healed. But the partnership they'd built from rage and recklessness and impossible circumstances, that was forever. And neither of them would have chosen any other beginning. Thanks for watching. You will find the video on the upper right of the screen even more interesting.